25 years ago, I made a series of films about wine that saw me travel the world, building up into a history, which then became a book. Today, I thought I'd revisit it and cut it up into bite-sized chunks for you to view exclusively online. I hope you enjoyed viewing them as much as I enjoyed making them. I'm not sure I'll be able to convince you just how recent a phenomenon good Australian wine is. When I started as a wine writer, nobody in England drank it at all. There were great wines, there were legends of great wines, but they were quite unknown here.
Despite all the hard work and tenacity of wine growers in the 19th century, the quality of Australian table wine was held back by the lack of a real market. Only fortified wines would sell, which were easy and cheap to make. The loving care that great vintages need costs money, and as yet there were not enough discerning wine lovers in Australia who were willing to pay for it. Britain and the Empire were the only plausible export markets, but the buyers there had little time for colonial upstarts. A member of one of the aristocratic families of Australian wine, the Seppelts, once told me a story of how when he was a young man he was kept waiting all day outside a London wine merchant's door. And he'd sailed all the way from Australia for this interview. When he was finally allowed in, he was simply told the price, and it was a very low price, that he'd get for the wine. And then he was told to leave. "But don't you want to see my samples?" he said. "Samples be damned," said the Englishman. "If the wine's no good, we'll send it back."
The Hunter Valley was the first part of Australian wine-growing country that most visitors from overseas got to know. In fact, it was the only one in that vast country, for a simple reason. It was the part that wasn't too far away from Sydney.
As the first Hunter Valley settlers knew, finding a cooler place to grow grapes has always been the first secret of improving quality in Australia. The second is keeping the fermentation cool by refrigeration. But even the temperature at which the grapes are picked is important. Picking machines often operate at night to bring in the grapes at the lowest possible temperature. All these elements help to make the freshly fruity wine that everybody wants today.
The ancient history of Sydney, well, ancient, it's only about 200 years old, seems pretty remote when you're having fun there these days.
This is where the very first vines were planted. Today, right in the heart of Sydney, although the place is still called Farm Cove. And the first governor of the colony, Governor Phillip, was so thrilled with the result that in September 1788, only 8 months after the colony was founded, he wrote this: "In a climate so favourable, the cultivation of the vine may be carried to any degree of perfection. Should not other articles of commerce divert the settlers' attention, the wine of New South Wales may perhaps hereafter become an indispensable part of European tables." And he was right, but exactly 200 years ahead of his time.